Let's get into the energy of June. I almost said July, but I meant June. I don't know what to say. Hey everyone, welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle Corazao-Dinu, and I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, and channeler who loves to bridge the gap between the unseen world of spirit, consciousness, energy, and intuition so that it can apply to your everyday human experience. Today's video is an energy update for June 2023, and I'll be going over the energetic themes, any channeled messages or wisdom that wants to come through for you so that you can have a very lovely June. If you enjoy these videos, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so in June, just a little bit of a review, we've just come out of a very accelerated, energetic, kind of transformative change that's been happening in the collective on the planet since about January. It really started picking up very quickly around February and March, and kind of continued this accelerated pace of energetic transformation and change and soul alchemy throughout those months of March and April and going and even into May. A lot of people started to go through really fast energetic changes, fast releases, fast openings, fast integrations, core releases, core integrations. A lot of people going through major updates in karmic agreements, old roles, wrapping up very old cycles that go back to, the core lifetimes, that involved our first experiences here on the planet. So lots of people wrapping up old cycles, wrapping up old roles, wrapping up old identities. Lots of people releasing and updating lots of spiritual agreements in their relationships, releasing lots of karma, coming into new expressions of themselves, birthing new expressions of themselves. There being an incredibly intense kind of soul alchemy happening, changes in perceptions, shifts in consciousness. There was a lot going on at the beginning of this year. So June is kind of like this transitional month of, leaving that kind of energy of that fast accelerated change and all that happened energetically within us, and kind of transitioning into a space where we see more of the physical changes that were impacted from all that energetic change. So for some people, that's literally like stepping into a new physical world or transitioning into a new physical reality. So you may actually be going through physical changes, kind of like a real death and rebirth in your life happening, where maybe you've changed your home, your location, where you live. Maybe there's been some major changes in your relationships, whether that happened through, breakups or new beginnings, or, changing a community, or people dying in your life, or, just things happening in your relationships that required or allowed or initiated a lot of change for you. For some of you, you could have lost a job, quit a job, changed a job. You may still be looking for jobs. You may be coming into new jobs. Some of you pivoting your career, changing your career, leveling up in your career. But it's pretty safe to say that there was so much energetic change that happened in the last half of the year that, now in June, we may be seeing more of a transition between all that energetic change and kind of the world that it ended for us, the reality that ended for us. We are no longer in that energetic resonance of what we were in before that experience of accelerated change. And so many of us are coming into kind of like that alternate reality or that new reality or that new world of that physical change as a result of all that energetic change. New worlds that we resonate with now on new energetic levels. So that can, for a lot of you, feel like some big changes that you're transitioning into and navigating in June. Now, not all of us have experienced a lot of these physical changes. We still have the same relationships, the same jobs, the same careers, the same location, the same home. You know, some of the core stuff is still there. It's still the same. But energetically speaking, you've gone through a lot of change. And so the way you experience your world may be transitioning. The way you navigate your world may be going through a transition. The way you relate to your world in general might change. How you show up in your own world may change. But either way, it's safe to say that there's kind of this transition of the end of that old world and the breaking away from that old world and kind of coming into a new world. Now, energetically speaking, for some people, maybe for a lot of people even, all this kind of energetic, transformative, fast, accelerated change is starting to slow down for some people, starting to kind of go into more of like a gentle, kind of energetic pace for some people. Okay, and that is because those people were really taking advantage of kind of the energetic dynamics, the energetic cycles that were in the air, and really going for it, really allowing, the fast transformative changes that they needed in their lives, kind of like, taking advantage of like a wind that was blowing through, and so those people may be slowing a bit down. They may be feeling like they're energetically kind of taking a break right now, kind of energetically resting, allowing themselves to kind of integrate back into their life after all that fast accelerated change. For many of us, it made it difficult to function. It made it difficult to kind of get stuff done because we were going through so much energetic changes. So for those people, June may be very nice because you're able to kind of get back into kind of like a human routine lifestyle again, where you can just kind of enjoy your human life again without there being so much energetic upheaval and changes happening. Now, for those people, there just may be a nice slowdown, a nice break in some of these energetic changes and maybe more gentle releases, but overall just allowing there to be kind of like an integration of that experience kind of going into the summer. Now, or for you and other people in other parts of the world, if you're watching this, it would be, in June, July, and August. Like that's kind of like more of like kind of a steadier energy that I'm seeing. But there are still people that are still going through an ascension type experience. And by ascension, I mean these people are energetically still expanding and they're still breaking through kind of like the upper limits in their energy. Kind of continuing to level up in their energy, continuing to break through glass ceilings in their energy, continuing to expand in their energy. Now, the energies in general look to be more like subtle and calm and gentle and slower. And so these people will be continuing to expand. It just may not be happening in such an intense way. And this is where I'd like to mention that over the last few months in March, April, May, you guys can watch those videos in earlier months to get an idea of all the changes that were happening. For many people, they were releasing, wounding on a core level, agreements on a core level, energetic blockages on a core level, updating things on a core level, having releases and openings on a core level. I mean, that's why it may have felt so intense. So these people that are continuing to expand into these, months, it might be less intense, it might be more gentle, but I do notice that the people that are going through a type of an ascension right now, they are really purging a lot of wounding. And the good news is that a lot of that core wounding is kind of looks like it's out of the way, and right now it's a little bit more of like wrapping up loose ends with minor wounding, minor imbalances in their energy. It's kind of like if there was a big old mess and you cleaned up the big mess, these would be like smaller messes or imbalances in your energy that you're cleaning up that would make it difficult to continue to rise, continue to break through those upper limits, or continue to break through your own glass ceilings, energetically speaking. And so I do notice the continuance of releasing wounding for those people going into their ascension, but again, it doesn't look as intense and nothing like it was earlier this year in February, March, April, or May. So yeah, we can all kind of take a deep breath in, because whether you continue expansions, whether you continue to have growth periods, whether you feel like things are settling down and just coming to a very stable, grounded kind of pace for you, it's that intense period of time seems to be over for now. I do want to talk to some of those people that may be going through more of an ascension experience of breaking through those upper limits. For you, going through that, I think it's important. You may already know this, but I think it's important to say this, that, a lot of people going through those growth periods or those expansions that break through more of those upper limits, you might be doing that on your own. That is certainly more of a personal experience. This isn't something that you may be doing with a group of people or hand-holding with someone else who's doing it too in your life. If you're lucky, you may have a partner or a friend or someone around you that's also going through that experience to kind of not feel like you're doing it all alone. But generally, these ascension type experiences are super personal, in which not really anyone in your life may be able or may be capable of understanding your experience and why you're navigating things a certain way. So there could be feelings rising as you go through these ascension experiences where you may feel relationship gaps between you and other people, where you might feel like the only way to maintain these relationships is by meeting people where they're at, and it may be difficult to have those relationships be able to see you or hear you or meet you where you're at, because you may have gone through so much change. You may start just feeling very different from who you were, and really not able to relate to your relationships the same way that you did before. You might just start feeling really different. And this brings me to my next kind of theme for the month, is how important it is to be gentle with ourselves at this time, especially our human part of us, because I would say it's safe to say over the past 6 months or longer that the human part of us hasn't really been in the driver's seat. We like to think that our human part of us is in the driver's seat, but then we kind of can go through these phases in our experiences where really our divinity takes over and our human self is just going for the ride. And either our human self is resisting that experience, fearing that experience, trying to control that experience, fighting with that experience, getting really triggered and uncomfortable by that experience, or the human part of us is still going through that intensity, but allowing that experience to happen. And so I know a lot of you have had different experiences with the human part of you over the last 6 months. Some of you have been really allowing it, really allowing the changes. And it's been super intense, super uncomfortable. Many of you have been in emotional and mental and physical pain, crying, getting upset, feeling really triggered, feeling very destabilized at many phases of the last 6 months. And it hasn't been easy for you, although you've been allowing those changes to happen. And then some of you just in total resistance to it, fighting it every step of the way. So this is a month to recognize that your human part of you has really gone through it, has really gone through some intensity, has really gone through some transformation, whether you are allowing it or resisting it. It may have been difficult. And so it's really important in June to, come back to your human self and be very gentle with your human self. To really start to connect back in with the human part of you and what the human part of you needs after all that change, after all that experience. And that brings me to, kind of another theme that I'm picking up in June, and how important it is to reconnect with your inner child at this time. The inner child is the most vulnerable part of us. It is, in a way, connected to our core human needs. And so it can be a very important way of coming back to ourselves on a human level and connecting with what we may need on a human level to feel safe again, to feel loved again, to feel connected again, to feel nourished again, things like that. But there's also another reason why you want to be aware of your inner child in June, because there is a very beautiful kind of creative spark happening in June, where there might be a lot of creative ideas kind of bubbling up to the surface from deep within. And that's very much correlated with the inner child. The inner child is a very youthful part of us that is imaginative, that is really good with ideas, really good with creativity, really good with curiosity and discovery and embracing the unknown. And in June, it's going to be really important to allow your ideas to come up to the surface, to allow creative potentials to come up to the surface. Even if you think they're crazy, they're stupid, that you don't think you'll work on it, don't think that you'll commit to them, just practice letting ideas be there. Practice having like an idea journal or a place to write down your ideas, even if they're silly ideas, stupid ideas. You don't think they're going to ever work out or that they're ever possible. Just allow them to exist, allow them to be there, because that's a part of your inner child that's helping you create. There can be these creative cycles, and a creative cycle, has, how do I want to say this? Our creative cycles can start with a type of dream or alignment, and then the momentum starts to pick up in these creative cycles, which brings us to more of a curiosity, more of a discovery, more of an imagination and ideas. And at some point we choose an idea and then we take action on those ideas and start to bring it and manifest it into the world through action. And then, at some point we have to edit those creations and then let go of, creations that no longer need our attention. And we are kind of coming into a bigger creative cycle on the planet where it's kind of like springtime, where it's a time where we may feel very vulnerable. We may feel like we're entering into new territory. The speed on the planet is starting to pick up its pace again. There are new innovations, new inventions starting to pop up everywhere. There is going to be a need to rein yourself in from time to time and connect with yourself. And you and your creative energy may be starting to rise within you. You may be feeling that creative itch to create something new in your life, to manifest something new into your life. And it may be a time where we are practicing, more of those traits of our inner child, where we're practicing following our curiosity, testing things, discovering things, experimenting with things. We may be going into the unknown, relating to the unknown in our life. We may be just in this space of having lots of ideas and clarifying lots of ideas in our lives, in our projects, in our careers, and in our families, however we channel that creative energy. Okay, so it's going to be very important in June to reconnect with that inner child, because the more that you can be connected with that inner child, the more that that inner child is integrated, the more that your creative energy is really going to work for you, and you're going to be aware of it, and you're going to allow that creative energy to flow. Okay, because there is a creative flow that's starting to happen in June. I just realized, like, there's been an accelerated kind of rise of creative energy over the last 6 months, that was going more towards like this transformative alchemizing experience. And now, after that transformative alchemizing experience, there's a creative energy that's kind of taking us somewhere, kind of like in a new direction. It's kind of like discovering like a river or a stream, and allowing that stream to flow and take us somewhere. Okay. And that's kind of what June reminds me of. After all that transformation and alchemizing, now we've kind of transformed into the energetic state that we need to be in so that we can continue this creative cycle. Okay. And so there might be like a subtle flow that starts to take you in a certain direction. And you need to be aware of that inner child, because it might come through lots of different ideas. A part of that flow may just be following your ideas, playing with your ideas, testing your ideas, discovering your ideas, clarifying your ideas. But there's certainly kind of like a creative burst of ideas, or being in communication with yourself on more of a soul level or creative level when it comes to ideas. Okay, so it may be ideas related to your family, your home, ideas related to your career, creative ideas related to your health, to your relationships, to your money, to your identity, to your healing, to all different parts of your life. It's going to be different for every one of you because you're all unique people. But there is kind of like this new kind of burst of creativity, of ideas in the inner child, and allowing this new flow of momentum, of this creative, flow to kind of continue and take you into a direction. Okay. So I definitely picked that up in June. Another thing I wanted to mention in June is the first week of June, maybe the first week or two in June. There is kind of a mental release that I'm noticing for that part of June. It reminds me of fear-based thinking, small thinking, limited thinking, where we get too caught up in the details in our thinking, where we're really trying to analyze and figure things out, and we're, grappling with our fears and our resistance, and, our small thoughts and our beliefs that make things small for us. There's a real opportunity in the first couple weeks of June to have a release around that. On a mental level, just let your mind and your nervous system release, fear-based, small kind of thinking that has been limiting your ability to perceive what's next for you, to perceive the direction that you may be called in, the mental energies that may have limited your ability to have a bigger perspective in your life. And at the same time, as you release that small thinking, that limited thinking, and that kind of mental body energy that may have been coming more from like the subconscious parts of you, there is that opportunity to embrace a bigger perspective, a higher perspective, to get more of like a soul perspective on your life, in the first couple weeks of June. And so it's interesting how, in the first couple weeks of June, we may be having more of this mental release that allows us to open up to a bigger perspective of our world or of our life or where we're at now. And then right after that, we have a burst of ideas, a burst, kind of a new creative burst that comes from deep within. And it's not necessarily where I see a lot of action being taken on these ideas, but just allowing there to be a creative opening that allows these ideas to come out. And so then we have this kind of bigger perspective on our lives with these ideas starting to emerge and come up to the surface. And then this kind of creative flow that starts to take us into a direction in June. So it's a really beautiful month. It's much less intense than previous months energetically. Of course, many of you are going to be continuing to do the work, continuing to grow, continue and expand. There's certainly people that are still going through a type of an ascension experience. It just won't be as intense. There'll be kind of this wounding, that's still releasing. There might be some smaller imbalances that you're releasing. There may be some inner child kind of integration going on in June for a lot of people. I do notice that there is a strong emphasis on like a kind of a feminine archetype in the collective in June, and I believe it's associated with the inner child. And so there's kind of like a mother, kind of motherly feminine energy, coming through in June. It could be helpful for people to work with their inner child and do some reparenting with their inner mother part of them. But I specifically notice kind of like that inner mother going through a type of embodiment for people in June. It might not be for everyone, but it kind of feels like a collective rebalancing with the kind of inner mother in June. And what I pick up about that is just the inner mother part of us can represent a very unconditional, loving nature that is just loving ourselves, loving everyone else, helping, serving, healing, nurturing, growing things out of unconditional love. And we may start to face those parts of us, those distorted parts of us, of our inner mother, the parts of us that are giving too much, the parts of us that are over giving, over caretaking, meddling in getting involved and mediating things that aren't even our problem, aren't even our business. So it kind of reminds me of like if there was a fight going on or a war going on, which there is, where there would be these tendencies to want to get involved and stop the fighting going on, to stop the war going on. But instead, the inner mother is kind of choosing to just have firm boundaries and say, you know what, that's just not my problem. Like I'm going to focus on self-love, So I feel like the inner mother part of the collective, part of the feminine energy is going through kind of like a necessary rebalancing around self-love, which may, kind of create, it feels more of like a very internal experience to me, like kind of like internal boundary making. That's what it feels like in the collective for me, where people are kind of really on an internal level working with their inner child, their inner mother, and like focusing more on internal boundaries of like where they give their attention to. I imagine that that's an important part of this creative process because if you're constantly distracted, if you're constantly distracted with everyone else's problems, drama outside of you, you know, fighting going on outside of you, things that need help, things that need service outside of you. If you're constantly distracted by all of that, it could be very difficult to be connected to what actually you need to nurture in your life. You have a life purpose. You have a creative flow. You might have a new direction you're going in. You might be birthing a new world in your life. I think almost everyone is kind of birthing a new world in their life. It is time for you to nurture that. It's time for you to nurture the new world you're birthing, the new identity you're birthing, the new life purpose you're birthing, the new potential you're birthing in your life. That's what needs your love. That's what needs your nurturing. That's what needs your personal nurturing and growth and, nourishment. That is what is needed. And so the collective may be going through a bit of like a frustrating, kind of rebalance around making those internal boundaries with distractions in the outer world, and so that we can focus in on our path, what we're here to do. And so, yeah, there's always a lot going on energetically. There's a lot happening at once, but that's just kind of some layers I was picking up on, because there is kind of like this spring that's starting to happen in the mass consciousness, not seasonally, but like more of a creative cycle level where the momentum is picking up, the creative energy is picking up. There's things sprouting everywhere that are very vulnerable. It requires us to be very connected with ourselves, with our needs, and to be very gentle with ourselves. And that is one of the themes coming up for June, is to be very gentle with ourselves, because we've been through a lot of energetic changes, maybe for a lot of you starting to go through a lot of physical changes, in your world. It's time to be gentle. It's time to kind of, allow yourself to take action on things, but also pull yourself back in every now and then, kind of like you have a harness on yourself. Pull yourself back in every now and then throughout your day. Can you just pull yourself back in and check in with yourself and what you need, and be gentle with yourself? You don't have to, work really hard and like go really fast and push things and effort through things right now. It's energetically a time to kind of rein yourself in. You might want to go faster, rein yourself back in. You might want to go faster, rein yourself back in. Check in with your personal needs at this time, because June is a very transitional energy month. And I don't know if you've ever gone through a transition. I mean, just think about this. We've all gone through transitions. What I'm talking about is like when you wake up in the morning, you transition from your bed to your bathroom usually to get ready for the day. Okay. And what happens if something distracts you in the middle of that transition? What happens if instead of waking up from your alarm clock and going to your bathroom and taking care of yourself, someone calls you on the phone with an emergency? It can throw off your whole day, And then what if you transition from work back to home, and in the middle of that transition, you get distracted by, a car wreck? It kind of ruins the rest of your day. It can really throw off the rest of your day. We go through transitions throughout our entire day, from morning to noon to night, from work to home to, all kinds of things. And these transitions are very vulnerable moments in our day where if we get thrown off by something, triggered by something, distracted by something, it could kind of derail the rest of the day. If you're not able to be conscious of that and reset and regain your balance when you lose it, okay? The same thing can happen in bigger transitions where we're transitioning from one job to a new job, from one relationship to being single, from a one relationship to being into another relationship, from one way of living to another way of living. A transition is a very, very vulnerable time where we can get distracted, where we can get derailed, where we can get programmed, where we can get, where it can get ruined. because it's a transition. It's new. We're vulnerable. Okay, so June is a transitional month. You're vulnerable. Okay, energetically, you're vulnerable. So good to be gentle with yourself, good to be connected with the inner child, good to be aware of the inner mother part of you, good to have internal boundaries, good to rein yourself in, not try to push yourself so much. Okay, be aware of the momentum of the energy that's rising, but also not having to rush, through that rising energy, like having those internal boundaries to rein yourself back in. Okay. So June's a pretty cool month. I'm glad. I know a lot of you, I can like feel the relief in the air of just like things settling down a little bit, So if you're interested, I do offer personal sessions, group sessions, and online programs. I do have a free class at the end of June. It's a free introduction to the Radiant Self program. It's an 8-week program that teaches you intuitive healing tools and energy management for embodied enlightenment or embodied living. So if you are sensitive to energy, or you are going through a spiritual awakening or beyond that, these are tools that can really help you feel whole, healed, and balanced while you navigate through all of that. It is also my course that is the prerequisite for my next course, which is the Real Eyes program, which is where I teach you how to read and interpret energy and how to kind of develop your intuition and use it in very practical ways. The people that I work with are very energetically sensitive. They are aware, they are self-aware, and they are very energetically sensitive. And there are two worlds that we live in, for those energetically sensitive people. We live in this physical world with our relationships in society, and we also live in an energetic world, a spiritual world, okay? And it's just as important to learn how to navigate that spiritual world or that energetic world, because it has just as much as an impact on you as that physical world, even more of an impact. For me, my dominant experience in my life is my energetic world. It informs me on how to navigate every single situation in my life. And it makes me very different because I orient and navigate my life based on the energy world, not my physical world. Okay, so I can teach people how to traverse both worlds from clarity and from an empowered state of balance. And so if that is you and you need those skills or you need those tools, please sign up for my free class. It's at the end of June. The link will be in the description box below. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And for those of you who enjoyed this video, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. I hope you have an amazing June. Take care. Bye.